Something about that smile didn't feel right. I felt it deep in my bones. And when my grandson Leo refused the candy she offered, I knew danger was hiding behind Ava's perfect little mask. The sunlight slowly streamed into the living room as I focused on my knitting. The door opened quietly, and there she was, Ava, Alex's new girlfriend. Her smile was wide, almost too perfect, and at first glance, I thought she was just a cheerful young woman Alex had described. "Mrs. Williams, it's finally nice to meet you." Her voice was melodic and polite, friendly even, but there was something in her eyes, a subtle calculation that set my instincts on alert. My 7-year-old grandson, Leo, sat at the head of the dining table. Normally, he would chatter endlessly about school, but tonight he barely touched his food. His eyes kept darting away from Ava as if trying to hide from some unseen threat. A shiver ran down my spine. Ava pulled a chocolate bar from her purse and placed it in front of him. "This is for you, Leo." "Very tasty," she said. Leo didn't reach for it. He just turned his face away. Alex started to scold him but stopped when I quickly interjected. "It's okay. He's probably a little tired." Across the table, my adopted daughter, Lucy, observed quietly. When Ava held Alex's hand under the table, Lucy's fingers tightened over her glass. She didn't say a word, but her eyes betrayed her unease, and I felt that silent tension settle heavily in the room. After dinner, Ava insisted on washing the dishes despite my protests. She moved efficiently, humming a cheerful tune, stacking plates neatly. Everything appeared perfect, but beneath that polished surface, I sensed a subtle coldness. Later, when she sat next to Leo to watch him draw, he immediately recoiled. Ava forced a quick smile, trying to hide the awkwardness, but I caught the flicker of something unsettling in her eyes. Meanwhile, Alex was oblivious, laughing at her jokes, completely charmed. Ava slowly integrated herself into our lives, coming to weekend outings and family dinners, but Leo's unease never subsided. One weekend, she offered to take him to the park. He was reluctant, and when they returned, his shirt was slightly dirty, and he remained silent, his joy absent despite the outing. I realized something important. Ava's intentions didn't seem innocent. Leo's instinctive fear was a clear warning, and I knew I had to remain vigilant. My heart sank as I watched him quietly clutch his toy, wary of her every move. But what I was about to discover next would be far more shocking. Ava's true colors were about to be revealed. Days passed, and Ava's presence in our home grew more frequent. At first, her energy seemed bright and infectious. She would chatter with Alex about work, laugh at his jokes, and compliment me endlessly on my cooking. But there was always an undercurrent I couldn't ignore. Something about her behavior made me uneasy, like a mask hiding a shadow. Leo, my gentle grandson, remained quiet around her. One evening, she presented him with a chocolate bar, praising his drawing and coaxing him with words as sweet as sugar. He did not take it. His small hands gripped his fork tightly, and he averted his eyes. I felt a pang in my chest. Alex frowned, about to correct Leo, but I intervened. "He's just tired, Alex. Don't pressure him." Lucy, always sensitive, watched closely. When Ava casually touched Alex's hand under the table, Lucy's fingers froze over her glass. Her silence was heavy with unspoken words, a protective tension that seemed to fill the air. I wanted to ask her what she was feeling, but this was not the right moment. Ava insisted on washing dishes even after I declined. Her efficiency flawless, her movements precise. Everything gleamed under her care. For a brief moment, I almost convinced myself she was kind-hearted, but the illusion shattered when she sat next to Leo while he colored. He recoiled immediately, pushing the crayon aside as if she were a threat. Ava's smile faltered for a split second, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. As weeks passed, small incidents piled up. During a park visit, Leo returned with a dirty shirt, silent and withdrawn, despite Ava's stories of his fun day. Once, she scolded him sharply over a trivial mistake with a toy, and his tiny frame seemed to shrink. She instantly returned to her sweet demeanor, masking the harsh words as if nothing had happened. But Leo's eyes betrayed his fear. Even Alex, oblivious to these warning signs, remained charmed. He celebrated Ava's humor, her compliments, and her presence. I felt my heart tighten. Something was wrong, and I could see it in Leo's cautious glances and Lucy's quiet distress. Then came the moment that would not be forgotten. Leo whispered in my ear, trembling, "Grandma, I don't want to go with Miss Ava. She doesn't love me." My heart froze. I knelt down and held his hands. His words were small but resolute. For the first time, I realized the full weight of Ava's deception. The truth I was about to uncover would shatter everything we thought we knew right on. Alex, wedding day. The wedding day arrived, bright and gleaming under the Florida sun, but my heart was heavy. Every smile, every toast, every clinking glass felt like part of a staged play I wasn't sure I wanted to watch. Leo clutched his toy car, quiet as ever, and Lucy stayed close, protective, her eyes never leaving him. I tried to keep calm, but the memory of the small note that had warned me of danger burned in my mind. A tiny piece of paper, so unassuming, yet capable of causing so much harm. I knew I had to act before it was too late. My legs felt heavy, but my resolve was unwavering. I scanned the room until I found David, the waiter who had delivered the note. His face went pale when I approached him, paper in hand. "Do you know who gave you this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. David stammered, trembling. I don't know her name, ma'am. She just handed me the note." Panic was visible in his every movement. I gritted my teeth. "Do you understand the danger? My grandson is severely allergic to shrimp." David shook his head violently, guilt written across his face. "I didn't know. I just followed the note." Time felt like it was slipping through my fingers. The guests were oblivious, laughing and sipping their wine, unaware that a deadly risk had been hovering just inches from Leo's plate. I returned to the table, gripping Leo's small hand, and stood tall. "One moment, please," I announced, my voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. All eyes turned toward me. "Before we eat, I need to ask a question. Who wrote this note, asking for shrimp to be added to the child's food at table 8? Whispers rippled through the ballroom. Alex rushed to my side, confusion and concern on his face. "Mom, what's happening?" he asked. I handed him the paper. His eyes widened as he read the words, and for the first time, I saw doubt shadow his expression. Ava, the bride, stepped forward, feigning surprise. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" Her tone was soft, but there was panic hidden beneath her polished exterior. "This is not a joke," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "This was an attempt to harm my grandson." The room froze. Some guests gasped, others murmured in disbelief. Ava's carefully crafted smile faltered. Lucy, no longer able to contain herself, stood up and stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "That's enough, Ava," she said sharply before slapping her. The resounding smack echoed, shattering the facade of celebration. The truth was finally exposed. But what Ava would do next would change everything. The wedding, meant to be a day of joy, had turned into a moment of reckoning, and our lives would never be the same. The chaos that erupted at the wedding left the ballroom frozen. Ava, once the dazzling bride, was now a figure of disgrace, escorted out by security while whispers of disbelief followed her like a shadow. Alex sank to his knees beside Leo, his hands clutching the boy as tears streamed down his face. "Forgive me, my son. Forgive me for not protecting you," he sobbed, his voice choked with guilt. I gently helped him up, holding his shoulders firmly. "We stopped it in time," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "This false happiness ends here." The days that followed were a blur of phone calls, judgments, and silence. Some relatives criticized Alex for trusting Ava blindly. Others sympathized with Leo, the innocent boy who had narrowly escaped harm. Alex withdrew into himself, carrying the weight of guilt with every quiet drive to school, his once bright eyes now shadowed with sorrow. The name Ava became forbidden in our home, a bitter reminder of the betrayal we had endured. Yet in the midst of the gloom, hope quietly resurfaced. I focused on Leo, preparing his favorite meals and trying to restore a sense of safety to his world. But it was Lucy, my adopted daughter, who truly became his anchor. Each morning she carefully packed his lunch, ensuring it was safe and even leaving small notes with smiley faces drawn in crayon. Leo's eyes would light up at these little gestures, a spark of innocence returning. Afternoons were spent at the park, where Lucy taught him to fly a kite or helped him climb the slide. When he stumbled or fell, she was always there, brushing off the dust and whispering reassurances. One night, when Leo had a high fever, Lucy stayed by his side all night, damp cloths on his forehead, telling him stories of brave little birds who weathered storms. Watching them, I saw Alex's gaze linger on Lucy with a mix of gratitude and realization, an unspoken acknowledgement of the steadfast love she had shown. Slowly, laughter returned to our home. Leo's joy was cautious at first, but it grew, especially with Lucy by his side. One evening at dinner, he looked up and softly said, "I want Aunt Lucy to be my mommy." The room fell silent. Lucy's cheeks flushed, her eyes wide with surprise and warmth. Alex's gaze softened, tears glimmering, as he finally understood where true love and protection had been all along. I smiled, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "True happiness," I whispered, "doesn't come from a wedding dress, but from hearts that care." Time passed, and Ava vanished from our lives completely. Leo thrived in Lucy's care, his laughter ringing across the yard, a vivid reminder that love and protection could heal even the deepest wounds. But while our family slowly found its light again, the lessons of betrayal and courage lingered, whispering that one day, choices would have to be made that could either shatter or save the fragile bonds of trust once more. The days after the wedding were quieter, but the silence carried a weight no one could easily shake. The house felt different, lighter without Ava's manipulations, yet somehow heavier with the memory of what had almost happened. Alex moved slowly through his routines, taking Leo to school and back in a near-silent haze. I watched him from the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, seeing the men I knew still trapped in guilt and worry. His love for Leo had never faltered, but the betrayal had shaken him deeply. Leo, too, was changed. His usual curiosity and boundless energy were tempered with caution. I noticed the way he sometimes lingered near Lucy, as if seeking a safe corner in her presence. Lucy had become more than a sister. She was his protector, the calm in the storm of his young life. Every morning, she would greet him with a warm smile, helping him get dressed, packing his favorite foods, and leaving little notes tucked into his lunchbox. Even Alex had begun to notice the bond forming, though he remained quiet, still processing his emotions. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the living room windows, Leo sat on the floor building towers with his blocks. Lucy joined him, kneeling beside him, guiding his small hands. "Watch, Leo," she said softly. "We can make it taller." But carefully, he nodded, his focus unwavering. There was trust in his eyes, the kind of trust that had been absent for months. It was a fragile trust, but it was growing. Evenings became a routine of small joys. Dinner at the table, laughter over silly jokes, and bedtime stories that ended with kisses and reassurance. One night, Alex joined in on storytelling, his voice trembling slightly but with warmth. He read from a book Leo loved, and for the first time in weeks, I saw genuine smiles crossing both father's and son's faces. It was as if the shadow that Ava had cast was slowly fading, replaced by the light of love and attentiveness. Yet, despite the progress, a lingering unease remained. Ava had disappeared from our lives, but her presence lingered like a ghost. I found myself watching for small signs, reminders of her manipulation and deceit, determined never to let her or anyone like her threaten Leo again. The world outside our home could be dangerous, but inside, I resolved, there would always be vigilance, care, and love. One quiet evening, as I sat by the window knitting, I noticed Lucy and Leo in the yard, flying the kite they had made together. The kite danced against the sky, twisting and turning in the wind. A soft smile touched my lips, but in my heart, I knew that peace was delicate and fragile and must always be guarded. But as the wind carried the kite higher, I could not shake the feeling that shadows from the past were never fully gone. And soon, the choices we had made and the courage we had shown would be tested in ways we could never ever imagine. Life in the weeks following the wedding settled into a rhythm, but the quiet was deceptive. Every morning, as Leo rushed to the breakfast table with a gleeful "Good morning, Grandma," I felt relief mixed with vigilance. His laughter was precious, yet I couldn't let myself forget how fragile it could be. Lucy had become the anchor of his world, teaching him to feel safe and loved again. But I saw the cautious look in his eyes whenever the doorbell rang or a stranger appeared in the driveway. Alex, too, began to emerge from the haze of guilt. He spent hours rebuilding the bond with his son, carefully choosing words and gestures that would reassure Leo that his safety was never in doubt. I watched him one afternoon, kneeling beside Leo as they built a wooden train track. "Careful here," Alex whispered. "We don't want it to fall." Leo nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I felt a small warmth in my heart, but it was tempered by the memory of what could have happened. Evenings were filled with stories, board games, and laughter. Lucy had a gentle way of including Alex, often teasing him for being clumsy or slow with his moves, which made Leo giggle. I couldn't help but notice the subtle glances exchanged between Alex and Lucy, fleeting moments of acknowledgement, gratitude, and perhaps something more. But for now, the focus was on healing, on restoring the innocence and security that Ava had tried to destroy. One Saturday morning, I found Leo and Lucy in the backyard, playing with a small kite they had made together. Leo ran across the lawn, his laughter echoing like a balm for my soul. Lucy held the string tightly, guiding it higher, teaching him patience and balance. Watching them, I realized how much courage it had taken for my family to emerge from the darkness, and how much trust had to be rebuilt, moment by moment. Yet, even in this serene routine, the memory of Ava lingered like a faint shadow. I noticed subtle signs, the way Leo sometimes flinched at unexpected noises, or the moments when Alex would glance toward the windows, alert for anything unusual. The threat had passed, yes, but the fear it left behind had not fully faded. I knew we could never be too careful. We had to protect what was precious. That night, as the house grew quiet and the moonlight spilled across the living room floor, I reflected on the journey we had endured. We had faced deception, danger, and heartbreak. Yet here we were, alive, united, and stronger than before. But deep down, I sensed that life had more challenges in store. Shadows, no matter how far they retreated, have a way of returning when least expected. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the past was not done with us. Someone or something was still watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Would we be ready when that moment came? Life in the weeks following the wedding settled into a rhythm, but the quiet was deceptive. Every morning, as Leo rushed to the breakfast table with a gleeful "Good morning, Grandma," I felt relief mixed with vigilance. His laughter was precious, yet I couldn't let myself forget how fragile it could be. Lucy had become the anchor of his world, teaching him to feel safe and loved again. But I saw the cautious look in his eyes whenever the doorbell rang or a stranger appeared in the driveway. Alex, too, began to emerge from the haze of guilt. He spent hours rebuilding the bond with his son, carefully choosing words and gestures that would reassure Leo that his safety was never in doubt. I watched him one afternoon, kneeling beside Leo as they built a wooden train track. "Careful here," Alex whispered. "We don't want it to fall." Leo nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I felt a small warmth in my heart, but it was tempered by the memory of what could have happened. Evenings were filled with stories, board games, and laughter. Lucy had a gentle way of including Alex, often teasing him for being clumsy or slow with his moves, which made Leo giggle. I couldn't help but notice the subtle glances exchanged between Alex and Lucy, fleeting moments of acknowledgement, gratitude, and perhaps something more. But for now, the focus was on healing, on restoring the innocence and security that Ava had tried to destroy. One Saturday morning, I found Leo and Lucy in the backyard, playing with a small kite they had made together. Leo ran across the lawn, his laughter echoing like a balm for my soul. Lucy held the string tightly, guiding it higher, teaching him patience and balance. Watching them, I realized how much courage it had taken for my family to emerge from the darkness, and how much trust had to be rebuilt, moment by moment. Yet, even in this serene routine, the memory of Ava lingered like a faint shadow. I noticed subtle signs, the way Leo sometimes flinched at unexpected noises, or the moments when Alex would glance toward the windows, alert for anything unusual. The threat had passed, yes, but the fear it left behind had not fully faded. I knew we could never be too careful. We had to protect what was precious. That night, as the house grew quiet and the moonlight spilled across the living room floor, I reflected on the journey we had endured. We had faced deception, danger, and heartbreak, yet here we were alive, united, and stronger than before. But deep down, I sensed that life had more challenges in store. Shadows, no matter how far they retreated, have a way of returning when least expected. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the past was not done with us. Someone or something was still watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Would we be ready when that moment came? The shadow lingered for only a moment before disappearing behind the garden hedge, but my heart was still hammering. I hurried to the door, peering out into the rain-soaked yard, but saw nothing, no footprints, no sign that anyone had been there. Still, an icy knot formed in my stomach. Ava's presence had left more than scars. It had left the sense that danger could lurk anywhere, even in our seemingly safe home. I felt my pulse quicken as I thought of Leo sleeping just down the hall, completely unaware of the threat that had returned to our doorstep. I tried to shake off the fear, telling myself it could be a stray animal or a trick of the shadows, but my instincts screamed otherwise. Leo's recent nightmares, Ava's cruel plot at the wedding, nothing about her had ever been harmless. Lucy sensed my unease, closing the book and placing her hand on my shoulder. "Mom, you're imagining things," she said softly, though her eyes betrayed concern. "Everything is fine now. We've survived before. We can survive anything." I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I knew that even after stopping Ava, vigilance was still our shield. The following morning, life tried to resume its normal rhythm. Leo laughed as he built towers from his wooden blocks, and Alex attempted to smile more freely, chatting with Lucy about mundane things to lighten the mood. I watched them from the kitchen, stirring my coffee and trying to summon calm, but I kept glancing at the windows, as though expecting the shadow to appear again. Lucy noticed my tense gaze and squeezed my hand in silent reassurance. "It's okay, Mom," she said. "We're together. That's what matters." Her words were comforting, but the memory of Ava's calculated cruelty still lingered, making my nerves fray. Later that afternoon, a package arrived with no return address. I froze, my hand hovering over the box. Every scenario I imagined was worse than the last. I called Alex, who rushed home immediately, worry etched on his face. Together, we opened the package cautiously. Inside was nothing harmful, just a simple note. "You can never fully escape the past." I felt anger rise in me, but also a renewed sense of protectiveness for Leo. Ava's shadow might linger, but we would not let it harm him again. As the day wore on, I found myself pacing the house, watching for any sign of intrusion, any clue that someone could still be manipulating our lives. Leo remained blissfully unaware, playing with his toy car on the living room rug, occasionally looking up at Lucy with adoration. She had become his anchor, his safe harbor, and watching their bond filled me with both relief and anxiety. Relief that he was healing, and anxiety because I knew the danger of someone trying to tear that piece apart could still come from unexpected lives again. Directions. That night, as I was tucking Leo into bed, a soft knock echoed from the front door. My heart froze. Who could it be at this hour? And what would they bring? News? A threat? Or a reminder that the past refuses to let go? I knew that soon I would have to confront whatever or whoever was daring to step into our. The knock at the door was soft and hesitant, yet it made the hairs on my neck stand on end. I paused, my hand gripping the edge of the hallway table, listening for any sound behind me. Leo's steady breathing from his room was the only thing that kept me grounded. I motioned for Lucy to stay close, and we quietly approached the door. The chain lock clicked as I opened it just a crack. Peering into the dim light of the porch, a figure stood there, drenched from the evening drizzle, holding something small in their hands. "Who's there?" I asked, my voice firm despite the trembling in my chest. The figure shifted and stepped into the light. It was Gloria, Ava's younger sister, the same girl who had confessed at the wedding. Her eyes were wide, filled with tears, and she shook as she spoke. I didn't know what else to do, she stammered. I needed to warn you. Ava. She's planning something again. My stomach dropped. Could it be true? Was Ava truly scheming? Or was this just Gloria's fear carrying her words too far? Lucy's hand squeezed mine tightly. We need to hear her out, she whispered. I nodded, stepping aside to let Gloria in, careful to keep the front door closed behind her. She clutched a crumpled envelope in her hands, thrusting it toward me. She sent this to me. I didn't open it, she told me not to, but I couldn't just leave it. I couldn't risk Leo. My hands shook as I took the envelope, feeling the weight of what could be inside. Even a small mistake could endanger him. My mind raced with the memory of the wedding day, the paper that almost killed Leo, the fear, and the relief when Lucy had acted. We all sat at the kitchen table, Gloria recounting her story in quick, broken sentences. She said Ava had been angry after the wedding, that she felt humiliated, and that she wanted revenge not just for Alex, but for everyone who had stopped her. The thought of someone so cunning and malicious made my heart pound. I looked at Lucy, who met my gaze with silent determination. We cannot let her hurt Leo or our family again, she said firmly. I knew she was right, but the question remained, how far would Ava go? Gloria went on, revealing small details of Ava's plan. Hidden cameras, notes to manipulate staff, and even threats to Alex if he didn't comply. My blood ran cold. Every word confirmed that the danger was real and close. We devised a plan to stay alert, to protect Leo at all costs. Lucy suggested staying home for the night, and I agreed. I double-checked the locks, the windows, and the security system we had, almost forgotten after the wedding. Chaos. That night, as we huddled together in Leo's room, I realized that despite the fear, we were stronger than we had ever been. United by love, courage, and determination, we could face whatever Ava or anyone like her our home threw at us. Yet, even in that moment of strength, a lingering doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind. Just as I finally allowed myself a moment of rest, a soft vibration sounded from the living room. My heart skipped a beat. Was it a call, a message, or a trap? Whoever it was, I knew that the night was far from over and that Ava's shadow might already be inside of. The vibration in the living room wasn't just a phone, it was a warning. I crept toward the sound, every step deliberate, careful not to alert Leo or Lucy. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat louder than the last. The soft glow from the hallway light barely illuminated the room. On the couch lay a small, unmarked envelope. I hesitated for a moment, then picked it up. The paper inside was folded several times, neat and deliberate. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The note contained only a few words, but they were enough to make my blood run cold. I'm closer than you think. Be ready. That was it. No name. No signature. Just a threat. My mind raced back to every subtle moment at the wedding. Every small act of unease Ava had left behind. The way she had interacted with Leo, her forced smiles, her anger when she thought no one was watching. Everything clicked into place. My chest tightened. We were not safe. Lucy, noticing my pale face, came over and took the note from my hands. We have to stay calm, she said, though I could see the tension in her jaw. We can't let fear rule us. If she's planning something, we need to be ready for anything. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. We decided to move Leo to the guest bedroom for the night, away from the front of the house, and keep him close. He was asleep before long, clutching his favorite toy car, completely unaware of the storm that had returned to our lives. I sat with Lucy in the living room, watching the rain streak against the windows, thinking of Ava and her obsession. How long had she been planning this? How many lies had she spun to manipulate my son to get close to Leo? My mind flicked to Alex, who was at work, blissfully unaware of the new danger lurking just beyond our walls. My heart ached at the thought, but I knew I couldn't let panic paralyze me. We had to act, and we had to act smart. We spent hours discussing contingencies, marking possible exits, and devising signals in case Ava tried to approach the house. Every creak and every shadow in the night made us tense. Yet we couldn't show it to Leo. Lucy's hand found mine, her fingers squeezing in silent reassurance. Together, we were a shield, a wall of protection, stronger than any fear Ava could wield. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that the danger was inside already, that Ava had found a way to be closer than we knew. By midnight, exhaustion took over, but sleep was uneasy. Every sound, a car outside, the rustle of leaves, the ticking of the clock made me sit up and check the windows. The night seemed endless, the shadows long and alive. I knew one thing with certainty. We couldn't let our guard down, not even for a moment. Ava's threat wasn't idle, and if we failed to stay vigilant, Leo could be in real danger again. Rehook. Just as I finally allowed my eyelids to droop, a faint sound echoed from the basement. Not the creak of the house settling, but footsteps, deliberate, quiet, and unmistakably human. My blood froze. Someone was in the house, and I had a terrifying realization. It might be Ava herself. The footsteps from the basement stopped suddenly, but the silence that followed was even more terrifying. I froze, my hand instinctively tightening around the edge of the couch. Lucy leaned closer, whispering, "Don't move. Let's see who it is." My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat louder than the last, echoing in the stillness of the house. I carefully crept toward the staircase, motioning for Lucy to follow, and every nerve in my body screamed that this was a moment where one wrong move could cost us everything. At the bottom of the stairs, the dim light of the basement flickered faintly, revealing shadows stretching across the walls. A box had been knocked over, its contents scattered like a trail of breadcrumbs. My stomach twisted into knots. Whoever had entered wasn't just wandering, they were searching, and I feared they had a single target in mind. My thoughts raced to Leo, fast asleep in his room, completely unaware of the danger that had quietly slipped into our home. I whispered to Lucy, "Stay behind me. If it's her, we can't let her get to him." Slowly, we descended, each step careful and measured. The scent of rain mixed with the faint odor of something floral, Ava's perfume drifting from the basement. My blood ran cold. Could she really have followed us home? Had she planned this from the beginning? The questions swirled like a storm, but there was no time for panic. We needed to protect Leo, and nothing else mattered. In the corner of the basement, a shadow moved. I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who's there?" The shadow froze, then turned. My heart nearly stopped. Ava's face emerged from the darkness, her expression a mix of fear and defiance. "You can't stop me," she hissed, her eyes wild. I felt a surge of anger and fear, realizing that she had gone to lengths far beyond what we imagined. Lucy stepped forward, her voice unwavering despite the tremor I knew she was fighting inside. "You will not hurt him. Not today. Not ever." Ava's gaze flickered, and I could see hesitation, but it was fleeting. In that moment, I realized she was desperate, dangerous, and unpredictable. I took a deep breath and advanced, keeping my movements deliberate, while Lucy flanked her. "Leave. Now. Before we call the police," I said, my voice cold and steady. She backed away slightly, but then something in her expression shifted: anger, panic, maybe even a twisted sense of entitlement. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. My heart leaped. Could she have already been in Leo's room? Without thinking, I bolted toward the stairs, Lucy close behind me. The fear was suffocating, but so was the determination to protect my grandson. Every second counted, and I knew that hesitation could cost us more than just a fright. It could cost Leo's safety. By the time we reached Leo's room, I saw him sitting upright in bed, eyes wide but alert, holding his toy car tightly. Relief flooded me, but it was temporary. Ly just begun. Ava was still in the house, and her desperation made her unpredictable. I grabbed my phone and called the police, my hands trembling but my resolve stronger than ever. Lucy stood beside me, keeping a protective hand on Leo's shoulder. Just as we thought the danger was contained, a shadow flickered outside the window. Ava wasn't finished yet, and in that instant, I realized that the real battle was. The shadow outside the window lingered for a moment before retreating into the darkness, leaving a cold emptiness in its wake. My chest heaved as I clutched Leo tightly, realizing how close we had come to disaster. Lucy's presence beside me was a balm, her calm determination grounding me amidst the chaos. We stayed like that for a long moment, listening to the silence that finally replaced the tension, grateful that Leo was safe and unharmed. Once the police arrived, they secured the house, questioning every corner and every shadow, and confirmed that Ava had fled, probably to plan her next attempt. But I knew in my heart that she would never succeed, not while we remained united. Alex arrived soon after, his face pale, guilt and relief mingling in his eyes. He knelt beside Leo, stroking his hair with a tremor in his hands. "I'm so sorry, son," he whispered, tears streaming. "I should have seen it. I should have protected you." I placed a reassuring hand on Alex's shoulder. "What matters is that we stopped it in time. You're here now, and that's what counts." Alex nodded, finally taking a deep breath as if shedding the weight of his despair. I looked around the room at Lucy and Leo, and a warm sense of hope began to replace the fear. Our family had survived the storm, and though the wounds would take time to heal, we had learned something profound. Love, vigilance, and courage could conquer even the darkest of schemes. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly returned to a new normal. Leo's laughter filled the house again, echoing through the hallways, as Lucy guided him through afternoons of kite flying and ice cream treats. Alex, now fully aware of the depths of our vulnerability, spent every moment he could with his children, appreciating the fragile beauty of family life. I continued to care for Leo, cooking his favorite meals and watching over him with a protective heart. But the real healing came from Lucy, the steady presence, who had become both guardian and friend. The memory of Ava's betrayal remained, a dark mark on a past we could never fully erase. Yet, it also became a reminder of the strength we found within ourselves. Trust had to be earned, courage had to be practiced, and love had to be chosen consciously. Each day, as I watched Leo run freely across the yard, I felt the warmth of a future we had fought for, a family reborn from fear into hope. That night, I sat by the window, moonlight spilling softly across the floor. The kite Lucy and Leo had flown days ago still rested in the yard, a symbol of innocence restored. I whispered to myself, family is not just blood. It is love, protection, and sacrifice. It is the courage to stand for what is right, even when fear surrounds you. And as I watched Leo asleep, a smile crossed my face, knowing that together, we would always endure. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that touch the heart. Every story you watch could be the spark that inspires courage and love in someone else's life. Don't forget to click on the next video for more gripping tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat.